Welcome and good morning. I'm Paula Watson, and I'm a member of this congregation. This is our first week of summer lay-led services. Our pastor, David Dunn, is on vacation in June and July, so we have a wonderful lineup of our members from our congregation delivering our messages. Today's speaker is Roland Mathis. Roland has been a member of UUMAN for several years and is particularly active in the second hour programming. He is a retired English teacher and attorney, and his previous sermons include Religion and the Poetic Imagination, On Liberty, and The Great Stories. On behalf of Roland and our Director of Religious Exploration, Lexi Brown, our music director, Alex Peach, my fellow worship associates, and the dedicated technical team that make today's live stream possible, I welcome you to Unitarian Universalist Metro Atlanta North, which we affectionately call UUMAN. We are a liberal faith community with the mission to nurture our spirit, strive for justice, and transform the world. No matter who you are, whom you love, or where you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. If any of you are visiting with us for the first time and you feel comfortable doing so, we would love it if you would please rise as you're able and introduce yourself so we can worship with one another as friends. Are there any first-time visitors on my left here? How about on my right? Well, we are all together. We're changing our order of worship a bit this morning, and the young ones already have a special activity in Fellowship Hall instead of the story for all ages. We have a few announcements. The schedule for today's second hour adult enrichment offerings is in your printed order of worship. Please note that service reflections and faith after doubt will be combined, meeting here in the sanctuary. And summer vespers will be held here in our sanctuary from 6 to 6:45 this Wednesday, June the 5th, and continue the first and third Wednesdays through the end of July. All are invited to join in welcoming the evening with gratitude for the good of the day and in reflection on a spiritual concept. Lexi Brown will be hosting another online Breeze training session on June 6th at 7 p.m. It will cover similar topics as her last session, but with some additional information. Topics include tags, sending announcements, events, forms, and more. John and Josie Burkhalter of the Little Kids and Big Ideas would like to share some of those with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Burkhart. This is my daughter, Josie. And Kurt is currently reading a book out in the garden. Both Josie and Kurt really I see him walking out there right now. That's so funny. They really enjoy playing outside here. But one thing we're missing is a really solid playground. And so Josie came up with an organization called Little Kids with Big Ideas. And along with the other youth in our congregation, they're fundraising and building a playscape right now. If you haven't already, I'd invite you to go out in front of Discovery Cottage and look at the willow nest that we've been weaving. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to spend a morning or afternoon. To help us get towards this goal, Kelly and a couple other folks have started an envelope fundraiser, which is a lot of fun, but is just a way to get some cash. There's a QR code on the back of your order of worship. If you could scan that, any donation is appreciated. I think the $1 envelope hasn't been bought yet. So even if you just want to shoot us $1, but there's also, I think, maybe $150 if someone hasn't bought that one yet. Kelly and Shelley, which rhymes and helps me remember that. There she is waving right now. They have set up, oh, thank you. They have set up a table at the entryway, and they will be there to answer any questions you have. So we have parties that we're doing, work days where we go and sit in the shade and work, and fundraising efforts. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and this is a great way to get the kids out in nature and give the parents a break. Thank you so much.
The next Common Grounds Coffee House will be Saturday, June the 15th. Doors open at 7. There's a $5 suggested donation at the door, cash only. Come support UUMAN and local area musicians right here in our sanctuary. And please bring some extra cash to tip the performers and to buy treats from our kitchen. This month's 50/50 recipient is Family Promise. Mike Chambers, there you are, is going to introduce our guest speaker, Andrea Brantley.
Good morning. Today's an exciting day in the UUMAN calendar for two reasons, at least two reasons. Number one, it's the day we welcome the Family Promise families to our campus for a 3-week stay. These are families who are working through temporary homelessness with the help of a great organization, Family Promise. There are still many volunteer opportunities for our stay, so if you have any questions about that, see me or Donna Gile after service. As was mentioned, Family Promise is our 50/50 recipient for June, so half of today's plate will go to Family Promise. You can also give all month using Givelify or Breeze. I should say Breeze or Givelify. We want you to go to Breeze. But today is also exciting because we welcome the Executive Director of Family Promise in North Fulton and DeKalb counties, Andrea Brantley. Andrea's expertise is fostering long-term donor and volunteer relationships. She's passionate about Family Promise's mission and collaborative solution of keeping families together. And she's never too busy to answer an email from a lowly volunteer. So please welcome Andrea Brantley.
Well, good morning. It's good to see everybody. UUMAN is probably one of my favorite congregations because you guys actually take our families for 3 weeks straight. And I can't tell you how much that means to the families that are continuously rotating every 7 days to a new congregation. It kind of gives them a little stability. And that's always nice to have in the summer. But I wanted to mention, for those of you that don't know what Family Promise is, we are a national organization. We all have the same mission. There's over 250 affiliates across the United States. So we are helping a lot of families with homelessness as an entire company, nonprofit. So Mike and I were talking while I was sitting down about how he sometimes answers the phone for us, and he's one of our phone screeners as well. And people will say they're not from North Fulton or DeKalb, and he helps direct them to another Family Promise. So it's really this big, huge mission that we're working towards nationally. But we also, in addition to the rotational shelter, which you guys are going to be a part of for the next 3 weeks, we also help prevent homelessness. So we realize that once people become homeless, it's really hard to dig themselves out. So we have a fund that helps families with rent assistance or mortgage payments if they should fall behind, because once there is an eviction on your record, it's really tough to be able to rent something after that. So we help families with that. We do our rotational shelter, and then we also keep holding their hand for about a year. It's called an aftercare program. We realized that once families started staying with us and staying together, that they were scared to leave us because they weren't sure how things were going to go, and they weren't sure if some other, thing was going to happen in their life to put them in homelessness again. So we also have a fund so that if they move out on their own and they come up with a big, large car repair or a health issue, that we can still help them financially with that. So those are our 3 programs, but the one that you guys are doing this for the next 3 weeks is the rotational program. And if you've never volunteered before, I'm going to encourage you to do so. I know we still have some spots open, I think, for the 3rd week and maybe a few for the 1st and 2nd week. There is no age limit to volunteering, and that is one thing that I love about our organization, because a lot of times when my son was little, there was nothing that I could do with him because you had to be 18 or you had to be 15. And this is a great opportunity for your children, if you have children, or your grandchildren. They can help serve a meal. They can help welcome our families. They can spend the night with you. You guys can camp out. It's fun. It's summer. It's a great opportunity. So I know Mike is always available to answer any questions. I know that he puts together a great team of volunteers that are his rock solids, but I know he's always looking for others. So please, if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to reach out to him. It's a fun experience. So thank you very much.
And now is the time for the hand or elbow of friendship.
Well, howdy, everyone. What a wonderful place to be on a Sunday morning. The call to worship reading is from, I picked something by a very interesting character, Rolf Gates. He is a former Army Ranger, then an alcoholic, then in recovery, then became a professional yoga teacher, then a teacher of teachers, and has developed this interesting system of developing the 8-limb path of yoga with 12-step into kind of like a single system for personal improvement. And I find his stuff very interesting. And this is from his book, Daily Reflections on Addiction, Yoga, and Getting Well. Once I shift my gaze from a goal to an intention, I find myself looking at verbs, not nouns. A goal can be a trophy resting on a shelf. An intention is a process inviting us to show up a little better today than we were yesterday. To help me with this, my meditation teachers taught that a commitment to an intention is like a commitment to learning to ride a bicycle. When we commit to learning to ride a bicycle, we are not saying that we will never fall off the bicycle. We are saying that we commit to getting back on whenever we fall off. We are committing to a quality of heart that is steady, consistent, and content to get back on the bicycle until we have learned to ride it. And now let us light our chalice.
Please join me in reading the chalice lighting that's in your printed order of service. We arrive together here, travelers on life's journey, seekers of meaning, of love, of justice, and of truth. And our origins, our destinations are many. May our joining be a blessing. Now please turn to number 298 in your hardback gray hymnal as we rise in body or spirit to sing Wake Now My Senses. Alex will play through once and then we will sing together. At this point in our service, we share joys with each other to magnify them and sorrows to divide the weight of their pain. If you are so moved, please come forward and say your name and drop a pebble in the bowl to express a joy or sorrow that you may have. If you are attending with our live stream service, please put a joy or sorrow into the chat.
Hi, I'm Valerie Bayless. I have a joy and a sorrow. The sorrow, I hope, will be brief. I punctured a tire on the way here. So I will not be participating in working for the Playscape, which is why I'm dressed like this, and we'll be fixing that instead. The joy is that as of yesterday, I am 6 years sober from an alcohol issue. And seeing as how I come from a family of professionals, I consider it a great victory. So thank you. We'll each do a pebble. Okay.
Okay, we have a joint joy. Wearing my membership chair hat, and I'm introducing our newest member, Rachel Osborne, who couldn't wait until the new member ceremony that's going to be in the fall. She is now a member officially, and she is going to head the young adult group. Wonderful, yes. So, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, and so my joy is obviously being able to become a member here. But then also, I'm really looking forward to working with the young adult group here, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's ages 18 through 35, so it's like a pretty big span. Yeah, okay, cool. But I'm excited to see how we can work together and strengthen this area of our community, and not only that, but also help to maybe grow it. So, thank you.
I'll drop this final pebble for joys and sorrows too tender to escape our heart. May we hold each other for another week.
Well, good morning again. When did I first learn to love the church? Well, let's think back to the 1950s. First Christian Church of Valdosta, Georgia, and imagine me as about 8 years old. And at that time, and this is going to be about the Wednesday evening potluck, okay? So imagine that at that time, of course, most of the church ladies were homemakers, full-time homemakers, and they were very, very good cooks. You know where I'm headed with this. Okay, so I go in there to this potluck, a little kid, and it's like 6 kinds of fried chicken, homemade biscuits from scratch, gravy, homemade gravy, pies. And I'm going, hallelujah, thine the glory. And it's just, and so that was just the starting point of my growing up experiencing church as a very positive thing. And I'm going to, of course, say more about that. Now, my mother's signature dish was deep dish blackberry cobbler, and my brother and I, we had a creek like 2 houses down from us, and we got blackberry bushes all around it. So, of course, when this is in season, because everything's fresh, right? It has to be fresh. And we would go down there and we'd pick a bunch of blackberries and bring them back, and we would also always make sure we had the salt shaker on the table on the patio. Okay, because if you grew up like me, you know that after you finish playing in the creek, if you pour salt on the leeches, they'll fall off. And if we went into the house with the leeches still on us, Mommy would not be happy. And when Mommy's not happy, nobody's happy. And we need to keep this in mind as part of our church life. Let's make the mommies happy. This is very, very important, okay? So anyhow, that on a little more serious note, that particular denomination I grew up in, Disciples of Christ, a kind of small denomination, they are theologically liberal at the time, not politically liberal. But it was not doctrinaire. I did not grow up with fire and brimstone, and, you know, I don't think I ever heard washed in the blood of the Lamb or anything like that. And to give you an example of that experience, in our teen class, we had this system where you could say anything you wanted, and the teacher would not tell your parents, unless, of course, you're planning a crime or something. And so it was really wonderful. I remember my friend Earl one time saying, well, the only reason I drink whiskey is to get drunk. It doesn't taste good, you know. And that needless to say, that generated some very interesting discussion among a bunch of teenagers. But that's the kind of experience I had in church. So, yeah, now, so I basically remained active, you know, in the Christian world. But I want to be clear about this, not as a believer. Okay, the other side of the story of my church experience was that I was born a skeptic. You know, I just really, going back to that 8-year-old kid or whatever, I really sort of never believed the mainstream Christian story. Now there are all kind of Christian stories out there. The mainstream one is, Jesus dying for our sin, vicarious atonement for original sin. And I basically, in my entire life, I never believed that. So it's not like I have any sense of having been betrayed or something. I'm not leaving it behind because I never had it to begin with. And that's what, of course, would land me in a UU congregation. But because of that experience that I had, I have remained active in the Christian world. Okay, I find it, I get a lot out of it. And I wanted to talk about that. I am active and, in fact, facilitate classes sometime at Sandy Springs First Christian. That's the denomination I grew up in. And I want to be clear about the fact, not as a believer, I'm very careful to say cultural Christian, because the Christian label is meaningful. It's a very important word. For people who are sincere in their Christianity, I don't want to dilute or cheapen that label at all. I'm not going to do that. Okay, but personally, I sort of benefit a lot from being involved in that world. And so I just want to share a few thoughts about that, because I know many of us came from Christianity. To give some context here, we have a relationship to the Christian religion that kind of comes at us from three different directions. Okay, first of all, as you know, it is our ancestral religion. Unitarianism and Universalism used to be Christian denominations just a few generations ago. So we've got that connection. Second, a lot of us were raised in some Christian church of some kind or another. Okay, so we've got people coming in, who have that in their background. And so for people like that, the question is, what do I leave behind and what do I bring with me, if anything? And there's a variety of experience out there. My very positive experience, a lot of people didn't have that. And maybe a clean break is what they need. So, we have from various different ways. But then the other thing, and this might surprise some of you, we have current active relationships with Christian churches. As an example, the OWL program, our sexuality program for children and youth, that was developed jointly with the United Church of Christ. If you go to their website, you're going to see OWL material on there. And we developed that together with them, okay? Also, like Family Promise, we have Northbrook United Methodist. We're working together with us on all this. So we have relationships with the Christian world. Now, back to my sort of personal story on this. What do I get out of it? What do I get out of that involvement? And I will say that one of the main things, of course, I've got friends here. That's the main thing. But in terms of just the religious part, diversity, okay? Diversity of ideas, okay? We are what is called a deep blue congregation, okay? And you've got deep blue, bluish, purple, reddish purple, red, deep red, and of course in either the deep blue or the deep red, you're not going to get a lot of diversity of ideas, okay? And there are certain advantages to that. It means that we can get around something that we want to do, and we'll just get everybody on board, like solar panels, okay? And so in a purple congregation, for example, that might be kind of, controversial, I don't know. So there are advantages and disadvantages, but I personally find it very valuable to talk to people who don't think like me. And I'll give an example of that. Okay, Sandy Springs first of all, let me back up and talk about the spectrum where Sandy Springs kind of lands on that, okay? If you do the spectrum of churches, to oversimplify, from liberal, my right, your left, okay, to conservative, you would have United Church of Christ over here, and I think Barack Obama belongs to a UCC congregation. One notch in from that, you would have Disciples, that's my congregation. Smack in the middle, you've got United Methodist, and of course, you all know how much variety there is in the Christian world, how much diversity of thought, because Global Methodists split off from them over the same-sex marriage issue, where United Methodist supports that, Global Methodist does not. So you can see there tremendous diversity of ideas. So you've got Methodists smack in the middle, Global Methodists slightly to the right, and then way over on the extreme right, you would have what I call fundamentalist biblical literalist. Now, please note, I did not say evangelical, okay? There are some progressive things going on within the evangelical movement. For example, there's a movement called Creation Care. where you have people who read the Bible and they say, oh, we're supposed to be stewards. Everything belongs to God. It's not ours, okay? And so these are environmental activists within the evangelical movement, okay? So you've got this, okay, so I'm over here, Sandy Springs First Christian, which is bluish purple, if I may put it that way, okay? Now, there a while back, there's a UCC, United Church of Christ minister, named Alan Hilton, and he has put together this nationwide program called House United. And what he's trying to do is train people in political depolarization so that you can disagree without hating each other, okay? And the way he does that, he came to Sandy Springs, he did a little weekend thing, then he turns us loose with his little book with the exercises in it for about 2 months. We split into small groups, and then he comes back, okay, for a follow-up. And the way it works is you put people together in groups of about 8 or 10, and you have the people in the congregation register red or blue. And of course, that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but it's like, which are you closer to, okay? Then you put the groups together with roughly equal numbers of red and blue, and they talk to each other. Okay, called Courageous Conversations. That's well named, okay? And they invited me to facilitate one of the groups. So I had my little group, and I'll give you an example of the kinds of discussions that we would have. I would say, for example, okay, how many of us believe that we should do justice? Oh yeah, everybody, 8 out of 8, everybody. Micah 6:6, do justice, you gotta do it, it's a commandment from God. Okay, fine. All right, how many of us believe that doing justice includes feeding the hungry? Oh yeah, Matthew 25, got to feed the hungry, got to do it, okay? 8 out of 8, everybody believes in doing justice and feeding the hungry. We're all completely on board with each other. Now let's get to the sticky part, all right? Now, how many of us support the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, known as food stamps? And all the blues, of course, are going to say, well, yeah, of course we support that. If we don't, it's just talk. You can talk all you want about justice and feeding the hungry, but if you don't do that, you're not doing it. And all the reds say, no, that's injustice. You are committing an injustice because that is a tax-based program. You're forcing people to contribute. It should be voluntary, and we do it voluntarily. That church does must ministry sandwich makings. They do their once a month weekend at what's called CAC there, Community Action Center. You know, they do can drives. They do. There's all kind of. They're feeding the hungry, and they say, so you blues, you believe in injustice because you're forcing someone to take money away from his own family and give it to somebody else's family when they don't want to. And if you want to, for example, charge people for infrastructure, police, fire, and all that, that's fine because they're getting the benefit. But the conservative approach is you shouldn't force people to, give money to, it should be voluntary. Okay, now I'm not saying I agree with that idea. I'm simply, I'm learning from this. I'm listening to people who don't think like me. And we're talking and we're dialoguing with each other. Okay, and we even kind of turned it into a game. You know, we were kind of laughing about it. We said, okay, I'll give up food stamps if you give me universal health care. No, universal health care is too big. You got to give me more than that. How about cancel the disability program? No, hang on. How about we cancel child's disability? I give you that in SNAP, and you give me universal health care. Back and forth, okay. And we were just like laughing. It kind of turned it into a game. But the point was not so much that we were solving the world's problems, okay? The point is that we were putting out goodwill into the world. We were doing this in a friendly atmosphere because we're all friends. We all know each other, okay? And that, I just think of that sort of diversity is extremely valuable, and that's why, it's so important to me to stay plugged into that world. And it reminds me of another guy there who ran another group, and he's politically conservative, and he and I have talked a lot about depolarizing, and he's a former president of the congregation there. And he remarked to me one time, he said, my vision for America is when political arguments will be like arguing about your college football team. Okay, you'll argue, you'll get red in the face, you'll accuse the other side of cheating, and then you'll sit down, watch the game together, and get out the party food. okay? You'll do it as friends, okay? And I don't know if that's a realistic vision. I don't know. There's so much hate out there in the world. I can't say that we're fixing anything, okay? But it's something that I personally am going to try to depolarize. Okay, well, let's sort of elevate this up. Okay, looking at the time here, you know, God may have his eye on the sparrow, but mine's on the clock. You know, I'm not a Baptist. Okay, what's sort of elevating this up to kind of like theology? What are the ideas that I bring in from Christianity? Okay, well, first of all, and this is what we have in common with our ancestral tradition, and that is God is love, and we say love at the center. So basically, we're saying something very similar, okay? You know, that love is that's the greatest of the virtues. You can have all virtue, but if you have not love, you are but a clanging cymbal, okay? And when we were discussing the new principles, putting love at the center, sometimes it came up. Some people would tell me, well, you know, I don't like the word love. It's kind of like mushy. It's like sentimental. You know, we need to put justice at the center. And here's why I prefer sort of the Christian version, and our version may become our version with the new principles, is to put love at the center rather than justice. Because, you know, justice is a part of love, obviously. That's love in action, right? But love is more. We need to remember, you know, this is a religion. We're not just a political party. This is a house of worship, and so we're going to work on the inside. You know, we're going to work on nurture the spirit, okay? And that's what love does, is to do your political activism, get out there and all of that, but do it out of a feeling of love, not out of a feeling of hate that all the world's problems are those people over there and we have to make them think like us. You know, it's just not be active, of course be active, but with a kind of a loving attitude, because it is so possible to do, in fact, I would say all too common, to do justice work with a belly full of hate, okay, where you just think those people, we just have to stop them. And maybe sometimes we do, you know. If you perceive that someone is hurting someone, you know, you're duty bound to try to stop that. And so you need being firm out of a place of love, okay? Love is a familiar idea, okay? We have that here. We absolutely have that in this congregation. So we don't really need to bring that in from somewhere else. So here's another idea, just one more idea that I get from Christianity that is very important to me. And that is the concept of undeserved grace. And of course, as an agnostic cultural Christian, I'm going to do kind of a spin on that that's a little different. But to me, the concept of undeserved grace, of everything as a gift, is like hugely important, because that's what leads to I can cultivate joyful gratitude. Okay, now the gift of life, there's kind of like a surface version of that, okay? And that's about circumstances, all right? I'm healthy, I'm financially secure, and for the moment, my children are not driving me completely crazy. Okay, so I'm having a good day, all right? So I'm grateful, okay? But to me, this idea of undeserved grace that you get from the Christian world is much deeper than that. And that is, we exist. That's a gift. That's just a Christian would say a gift from God. I would say a gift from the cosmos. But that is just a pure gift. We were just given that. It was just dropped in our laps that we exist at all. That's amazing. Okay? Let's go a step deeper than that. All right? We are conscious. You know, why aren't we like biological robots? You know, you can envision a world like that where, you know, you have these biological creatures that look like us, and they build cities and fly to the moon and fight wars and all that, but they don't have consciousness. This is an insight of both the East and the West, okay? The Eastern sages will talk about the seer, S-E-E-R, stepping back into the seer. Not your thoughts, but your awareness of your thoughts. That's the consciousness, because it's important to distinguish consciousness from intelligence or psychological functioning or decision making. Those are all different things. You can have all of that without consciousness. A machine can do that, okay? And the Western philosophers have referred to this as the problem of the ghost in the machine, okay? So from East and West, you've got this same insight, this same essential insight. So isn't that a magnificent gift? I mean, I'm awestruck when I think about that. I exist and I'm conscious. And that's just like was given to me, okay? As an agnostic, I don't know who gave it, but, but I know I received it. Let's go even a step deeper than that. All right, to the extent I understand modern science at all, science teaches that if you have a choice between theories, the simpler theory is usually better. You should pick the simpler theory. This is an idea I stole from Stephen Hawking and a bunch of other people. Nothing is simpler than something. Therefore, there should be nothing, okay? And yet, there is something. The cosmos itself is a gift. It is pure, undeserved grace just handed to us, okay? And all of that, to me, is just wonderful. It's just a feeling of just like, yes. It reminds me, to paraphrase John Wesley, we do not love in order to be saved. We do not do good works in order to be saved. We do good works out of gratitude that we have already been saved. We love as we have been loved, okay? I'll mention one final thing on this thing about consciousness, which I think is a very important idea. The militant atheist, Richard Dawkins, that's his name. The militant atheist, Richard Dawkins, he is a materialist reductionist. He's an evolutionary biologist. And he even admitted, he had the courage and honesty to admit that this is where his materialism hit the wall, okay? In his book, The Selfish Gene, some of you may have read that. It got a lot of attention a while back. He writes, the emergence of consciousness is the most profound mystery in all of science. It's a profound mystery, even to an atheist, even to a materialist, okay? And so that to me, I would say, is just the value that I get out of being connected to the Christian world, is it reminds me of ideas like that, and I have these experiences that I've related to you. So once again, eye on the clock. I'll finish up now. And thank you that you have privileged me with allowing me to share this.
In an effort to fulfill and further the vision and mission of this congregation, we ask that our friends and family share time, treasure, and talent. With this, we will now take the offering. You may also give using the Breeze or Givelify app. And just a reminder that this month's 50/50 recipient is Family Promise. Half of today's basket offering and any checks, Givelify or Breeze donations specifically designated as 50/50 during the month of June will go to support the work of Family Promise. We accept this offering generously given by our members and friends for the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love and compassion in our lives, in our community, and in the wider world. Please turn now to number 159 in your hardback gray hymnal. As we rise in body or spirit, Alex will play through This Is My Song once, and then we will sing together. Please join me in reading the words to extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace.
And now for the benediction. Yeah. The spiritual teacher and literary scholar Joanna Macy, she suggests 4 steps in somehow dealing with this crazy world in a way that is both hopeful and retains your serenity. She says, begin with gratitude, honor your pain, see with new eyes, and then go forth. The service is ended. Go in peace.